Hello DeFi Alpha Gaming crew, my name is Seb, I'm one of the co-founders of the guild and I'm here with the other co-founder, our source of alpha, Gerry. How are you today, Gerry?
Yeah, good, Seb. Good to see you again. So, Gotchiverse. Have
Let's
you been
dive in.
in there at all? Have you
I,
been having a crack at it? I know Nicole has been.
yeah, I've been in a little bit. Obviously, I'm pretty busy as it is. You're pretty busy as it is. It's kind of hard to find time, and I think I'll be in a lot more when there's, installation building and stuff like that. But I jump in there a little bit just to be familiar with everything. I see there's been some changes to the amount of rewards that are coming out. Like one kek, 0.1 kek, 0.5 kek. They've split that up, which is really cool. And we'll get into all the changes. But yeah, I've been in a little bit, but most of all, I've just been staying up to date with news and just being ready for the next kind of shipments, to be honest. Yeah. And you?
Yeah, no, I haven't actually. Same deal, especially with Easter and everything. But I think that's a really clever tactic to split up the Alchemical and fractionalize it further for the game side of it, because people are going to get that little dopamine hit, even if it's a fraction of a cent that they're picking up. So from a gaming aspect, that's actually a really smart move. And I was kind of wondering, like, how are they going to make this work when they make the Citadel available for everyone to run around in, because it's so vast. And that's the way they could do it, which I didn't even think, that had not even crossed my mind that they could fractionalize these things down even further. So that's super smart, because people are going to want to be engaged and interested when they're walking around the Gotchiverse, and having something to run over and collect is going to do that. So that's a really cool idea, and I saw that in Nicole's video she just put up. So like that's a really clever tactic, I think.
Yeah, Nicole's been working hard on trying to educate scholars. So she's even had it translated into Spanish and Tagalog, which is the native tongue of the Philippine nation. And it's going well. They've been, very successful videos for her little channel, which is really good because, there are so many things brilliant about Aavegotchi, and I do think Aavegotchi has huge potential to overtake Axie in so many regards because of so many aspects as they ship more and more products. And I definitely think that was fantastic. But yeah, one of the other major things is that, people have obviously been botting the system. I don't know what kind of bots they'll be using, but you can kind of tell when you're in the Gotchiverse where you could in the past, where like maybe Keck would appear and then all of a sudden the Gotchi near it wouldn't move. And then you'd go past other Gotchis where it just goes on like the same loop. Like maybe it's like a kind of like, it just goes in this strategy. And I guess they have just, 30 Gotchis doing that same thing all the time, hoping that eventually they kind of run over a bit of Keck. And maybe there's even more advanced bots that can actually see new things on the screen. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, they mentioned that in the recent hangout about the issue of the bots, and that's obviously been a big issue over the last couple of weeks. But I haven't really seen it myself because I haven't been in there playing so much. But they basically indicated that the team's definitely working on it, and at the moment there's a lot of data you need to crunch to be able to sort of work out. Yes, these 30 gotchis are definitely bots, but they're having some pretty good success with it. But the issue actually sort of came up about how people feel about having bots later on once the grid gets released, which is, outside of the Citadel walls, and we start getting the liquidators. And they may allow bots to exist in that environment as a player versus environment type way for people to actually, attack and defend. So, if there's bots that are out there farming Alchemica that are liquidators, the Gotchis could kill them and then collect the Alchemica, and it adds a sort of a layer to the game in itself. So bots might end up becoming, a normal part of the game, but they're certainly not liking it in terms of just Alchemica farming, where that's all the game is at the moment. So they're working hard on that, which, is quite interesting.
Oh, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, you're always going to have bots. Wherever there's a problem, humans will come up with a solution. And the problem of not, of wanting to get all your gotchis to work and you not having to do it all, someone's going to make it botted. But I believe you still have all of your gotchis in the Gotchi vault. I don't have any mine in there. And you've got about 40 or 50 gotchis?
Yeah, I think I've got 45 all up. I've got one outside of the vault that I used to play with occasionally, and then I've got the rest in the vault, and I've just decided to leave them in there. And they've actually been doing pretty well. I have been getting regular Alchemical. I didn't actually realize I was getting Alchemical for about 10 days. It just gets dropped directly into your wallet. And on Polygon Scan, you sort of don't see it as a transaction unless you click on the ERC20s tab, which I didn't realize. So I'm like, I was a bit frustrated. I'm like, this isn't really working for me, but it's actually doing pretty well now. And I believe that we started having over 4,000 active players at once. Now, obviously, a lot of those probably are bots, but there's still someone's Gotchi. They still have to get the Gotchi from somewhere. They still have to rent the Gotchi from somewhere. So in a way, it's still sort of showing that there is some demand for the game, and that's encouraging. And I guess, like you said, when there's an economic incentive, people are going to find ways to game it. So there's going to be an arms race constantly against the bots and the devs. There's no doubt about that. So pretty encouraging, though, because I think it was 2 weeks ago when we last spoke thereabouts, and I think we were getting about 1,200 users. So there is some growth. The demand's going up. But as expected, the token prices are slowly deflating because, there's more liquidity coming onto the market as people farm and dump the token, especially those that are literally just trying to monetize this as best they can. So not really much of a surprise there. But the main things I wanted to touch on today, Seb, was basically some of the alpha that came out of the recent hangout over the weekend. Mm-hmm. A fair bit of information's come out of that, but it hasn't been officially announced yet. So some of it's subject to change, but it does sound like at the end of this initial play drop, at the end of the month, we're moving into a new phase for about sort of 2.5 weeks. And they're calling that the hangout release. So I believe there's still going to be the Alchemical farming as there is now, but they're going to have more coordinated, focused efforts on social gatherings.
Oh, okay, good.
So they're basically trying to work out, the next hangouts probably won't be in Discord, for instance. During that period, they'll be in the Gotchiverse, and they'll be trying to build out, chat elements, voice chat, all that sort of stuff. So they're trying to brainstorm with the community what things they would like to see and build that out for a couple of weeks. So that's pretty cool. And then on the 18th of May, we're looking at basically the landowners are going to get their time in the sun, and the Citadel is going to be opened up to that level where everyone has got land already. So that's about 70% of the map from memory. So a lot of people have held the land for quite some months now, and they'll be itching to get in there and start using it. So in about sort of 3 weeks' time, people will be able to start getting into their land plots and equipping it with the first installations, so the altars in particular.
What about the harvesters or any of that? Is that coming yet?
I think the harvesters is going to be maybe a few weeks later. They haven't gone into that detail yet, but it's definitely everything's sort of coming in chunks, in stages. And I think they just want to see, make sure there's no bugs, see that things are running as expected, and have a few weeks with each element. And it's sort of kind of smart because it builds anticipation and interest and hype. And, for a few weeks, everyone's going to be hyper-focused on altars. And then it's going to be, now we've got these other installations, the harvesters, that sort of thing. So it's all coming. And I was a little worried, to be honest. I thought, how are they going to manage this, especially with such a little amount of Alchemica, physically out on the map. But by them fractionalizing it, the gamification, the fun side of it's still going to be there. And the people that have the land can start to get some returns on their investment and start building it out and strategizing around what to do with their land and what to do with their Alchemica.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I'm super keen because, I've played a lot of Clash of Clans in my 20s. So I'm super, super, super keen to actually just dive in and start getting some installations there. And then, trying to work out the best way to use scholars to go and, passively get some yield there. But I know the team is shipping, which is brilliant. We can always want it faster, but these things take time, and they're already making fantastic headway. And they're all very dedicated to the cause. Like, I think they want to go down in history as being, one of the first early Web3 games that was just, shipping and making it, and for others to kind of respect and revere, because they've all done very well. They could all just kind of go off and chill on the beach, but they're there just putting in 100-hour weeks. So epic stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no worries. So I don't know if you saw that the OG tiles started to drop, so they're available now, or at least the first one is. I think they drop one each week, so you'll have like a 1 week period to get each one. And basically, these are just 2 weeks, is it? Okay. Yeah. These are just an aesthetic thing that you can put on your land. It's basically like a covering, if you like, that goes on top of your land. So there's no actual in-game utility. They are tradable though, and these are essentially a limited edition. So like an OG, it's a bit of a flex if you can decorate your land with these tiles. Mm-hmm. And if from a purely speculative point of view, the original items in games generally hold a lot of value later on if the games become successful. So I crunched the numbers a bit yesterday just to see what's the rough price in Ghost terms to get a golden altar, which is the original OG installation we can get, and these tiles, and it comes in at about 350 Ghost for an altar at the moment. Mm-hmm. If you were to buy the Alchemical and mint it, craft it yourself, and about 12 Ghost roughly for each tile. So I think one tile is the size of a humble plot. So I think you'd need 4 tiles for the reasonables, and is it 16? I think for the spacious, because they're even bigger again. So still a fair bit of money if you want to kit out a spacious in the OG tiles from top to bottom.
Oh, sorry. A tile is as big as a humble plot. It's massive.
I believe so. I think it's the entire plot. So reasonably affordable. There is a little, I don't know if you've got the Aavegotchi Twitter.
Okay, here we go.
That one there, yeah.
Okay, so these are the 3 tiles as a visual representation.
Yeah, so that's a humble, and then to the right, that big square there, that's 4 times as big. I think that's a reasonable. That's the scale of a reasonable. And then from memory, the spacious is 8 times a reasonable, isn't it?
Right. Okay, so what's that kind of transformation? Oh, okay, so you can put the tile on, and then you can put all of your equipment on top of the tile.
Basically like a rug, if you like.
It's carpet. Oh, that's really cool.
I think that's a good way to think of it is like a decorative carpet, I guess, is probably the best way to look at it. And then over time, there's going to be more tiles. So if you've got a bigger land plot, like a reasonable or a spacious, you'll be able to kit it out, with a mishmash of different tiles, however you see fit.
Okay, that's
the other thing
that's awesome.
That's interesting in that graphic there, Seb, of the bottom one that you can see, where they've got the wall built around it, you can see how much real estate you actually lose by putting a wall up on a humble plot.
Right.
And you can't get as many installations on if you have a wall. So Coded Ann was basically saying it's probably not economically viable or make much sense economically to put a wall up on a humble versus the other plots.
Yeah.
So that's just something to keep in mind as well.
Okay. Well, I think these tiles, I think they're going to do well long term. I'm going to see if I can maybe buy 20 of them.
Yeah, I think I'm going to spend most of the Alchemical that I've got from my Gotchis on tiles, and probably on the last day or second to last day, I will probably get an altar or 2. I'm actually going to sell my Haunt one, my unopened Haunt one, to fund them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you might be able to just get that from all of your earnings from people renting out your.
I'm sure I'm going to get there for the altars because it just takes so much keck. I haven't got to get a single one yet, and I'm running out of days, and I want to get at least more than one because I'll be tempted to install them. But in my mind, I think it's probably worth keeping one, not having it installed on some land potentially if you want to keep it as a speculative asset. Because I don't think you can pull an installation back off your land and then resell it later on. So once these things get installed, they're staying there.
Yeah, I think there's going to be
the circulating supply of all of these altars is going to be super small in probably a few months' time.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Okay.
So there was a couple of other real quick ones, Seb, from the Hangouts. There's now a category on CoinGecko just for the Gotchiverse assets. Yeah, so it's a really handy way to just have a quick glance at the current trading prices of the Alchemical, and as you can see, they are slowly bleeding out, and I'm suspecting they're going to keep doing that for some time. That's why if I buy anything, I'll be doing it probably in the last day or 2 of the time available.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. CAC's gone down. Because I think CAC was like $1.50 or something. I mean, we said so initially that CAC was it was too high.
I I'm not surprised by this at all.
No, what was the
So
price initially though?
I think it went to about $1.60 or something crazy.
Oh, but what was the price when it actually went into the liquidity? Do you have
I'd
any
have
idea?
to look up.
Yeah, it went to
Only put-
$1.46.
Yeah,
That's fine. This is good. This is, as you said, this is just market, just price discovery. It's natural. And when it was, when someone got in early with a limited amount of liquidity, this was always going to happen. So that's really cool. Quite interesting that FOMO is quite popular. It's actually up, at least in the last 7 days. It's down 40% over 14 days, but it's just had this big tick up, which is
that's
cool.
interesting, isn't it? I wonder why someone's bought a big bag of FOMO. Interesting.
Still very small volume, I guess.
Yeah.
At least at the moment, 15,000.
We're not going to get real price discovery until we have the GACs running and we have some deep liquidity build up in that, I don't think. And so we're still probably a month or two out really understanding the value of some of these assets. And as more installations are available to be crafted, that should help with the demand side of some of these prices, you would think.
Yeah. Was there any news on the GACs?
They didn't sort of mention it specifically. It was sort of like, the next sort of month was covered with the Hangout release and this initial land release. They're kind of dubbing it the channeling release because you'll be able to do your Alchemical channeling if you've got the altars and do the channeling from the sky, but you won't be able to do anything with harvesters or reservoirs yet. So, maybe the GACs is coming towards the end of that, but they haven't actually specified just yet.
Yeah, I think that's more of a legal thing, as opposed to...
I think so, yeah. There's a fair bit of stuff they're trying to navigate legally with all of that. So, and they want to spin out the GACs so it's completely decentralized. It's not a part of Pixelcraft.
Oh.
One last little tidbit, Seb, is that you can now play the Gotchiverse using the Opera crypto browser from an iPad. Anyone who wants to grind away on an iPad, they can now start to do that. And I just think that's great. So, eventually, proper mobile gaming will be a part of the Gotchiverse too, which just expands the scope that, makes it more accessible, especially for people that, don't have a full PC. It's going to make it a lot easier for people to get in there and start using the Gotchiverse and having fun in there.
Yeah, people can also use Kiwi browser on a phone and install MetaMask that way, and I believe that works.
Right.
But you could do that with any Android, I believe, like tablet or phone. I'm unsure when it comes to iPhone, iOS stuff. But yeah, there are solutions out there. But the fact that it's quite native is fantastic. That's brilliant. The final thing that I'll add is that with the Bazaar is has installations. At the moment, only just the golden altars. Nothing regarding the tiles. I'm sure they'll be added in the future. But you can go and buy one there. And as you can see, it's 394 Ghost is the floor price. But you just said, Gerry, it costs about 350 Ghost to go and mint it. So
there's about a 40 to 50 Ghost premium buying it on the Bazaar versus just buying the Alchemical tokens and crafting it yourself. So I would recommend you do that rather than come to the Bazaar.
Mm-hmm. And there's only, I think, a 3.5% trading fee. So you may even be cheeky enough to go and mint a couple and then just plonk them on there and do it. So you just make a small premium. Maybe, I don't know what, maybe you could sell them for 370 Ghosts and still make a little bit of money. Not really sure on that. You'd have to do the math. And probably not really worth the time, but you might be keen. Up to you. Well, that's some brilliant alpha. So we've got progress. Thanks so much, Gerry, for all the alpha. And I guess we'll end it here because we've got to save some for next week. Well, thanks, listeners. We'll catch you next week. Cheers.